Greetings everyone, and welcome to episode 12 of The Parting of Veils. Today I am traveling out to Salem, West Virginia, the hometown of Gary Vincent, horror author and author of the Darkened Hills series. Today we'll be talking to him a little bit about the inspiration behind his really cool Darkened Hills series, a vampire series, and hopefully maybe seeing some of the sights that inspired and appeared in the book series. So stay tuned, and I will see you all soon. Alright, just stopping at a rest stop to maybe get a bottle of water or something, and then I will be on my way back onto the interstate very soon. I'm in West Virginia now, and say what you will about it, but it is really quite beautiful here. And yes, a lot of beautiful scenery, beautiful mountains, fields. I'm actually enjoying this very scenic drive a lot. So, alright then, well I will see you all again when I am speaking with Gary Vincent.
Just kind of went from there.
Nice. So it started out as like a joke, turned into like this 5-book, and now a spin-off opus, pretty much.
there might be a 6th book in the works, but 5 just came out. So I've got to let 5. Because last time when 4 came out, I didn't have any publicity or anything on it. It just kind of snuck under the radar and just existed. And but I decided with 5 I'm going to go through and make the trailers and all that good stuff and get it out there. Even though it's still kind of under the radar right now because it's out, but it's not out because I want some people to look it over first and see if it makes sense. Well, you know, the longer a series becomes, the more challenging that it is to keep it all cohesive, and that you don't really mess with the story too bad.
Oh yeah, well even with writing my own series now, it's like I'm even just trying to finish up like book 2.
Well, your books are like these epics, these, like The Stand. No, if I was writing, if I was publishing your book, the way I would have done Descent would have been a trilogy. That one Descent. Of course, West Virginia is filled with mines.
Yes.
And so, in an anticline, the situation is you think you're digging down.
Right.
Your brain says you're digging down.
Yeah.
You're digging the floor.
Okay.
But in reality, you're digging up.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay.
All right.
And so in Wilkes-Barre is the most documented case of a super disaster.
Actually, I grew up around that area.
Okay, so you probably are familiar with when they dug into the riverbed and it flooded the mine shaft.
Yeah.
Okay, so that type of horror, claustrophobia situation plays out in Darkened Hollows.
Okay.
As one of the 2 parallel storylines. The storylines meet up. But the premise of Darkened Hollows is that the people that in Darkened Hills, the serial killer that's referenced only lightly, somehow was getting these victims for the main vampire, Victor Rothenstein.
Okay.
And he kills himself and leaves a transcript behind to the police.
Right.
Now this transcript is based on a real serial killer's transcript that killed himself in the same hotel. Okay, so it's I was able to score that transcript, so I rewrote the transcript to modify for vampires versus whatever the real killer was doing.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's eerily dark, but eerily close to reality.
Okay.
So there is paranormal fantasy interlaced with real news.
Okay.
So that's what makes the story scarier, in that sense. That anyway, Darkened Hollows has the premise that the serial killer did the work of the master vampire, but the master vampire wanted the victims completely dead. He wanted no other vampires. He didn't want the headache of having to deal with all these underlings.
Right.
So at some point, the serial killer, the guy that supposed to kill them off.
Yeah.
Got sloppy, and he would just dump their bodies in the mine shaft.
Okay.
Now the mine shaft was very deep and almost inescapable, so instead of them being true dead, they became undead.
Okay.
They became ghouls. So this deep, abandoned mine became filled with ghouls.
Right.
They can't really escape, but they're trapped down there. Now on the other side of the ridge is a live mine.
Okay.
But the accidental thing that happens there is a bunch of rookie miners end up tapping an anticline and begin to flood the mine shaft. So their way out is blocked. So they have only choice they have is to go into some of the restricted, blocked off areas deeper in the mountain, which ties into the old abandoned shaft.
Oh, okay.
So Darkened Hollows deals with the fear of claustrophobia and real mining conditions and disasters in the one of the two storylines.
Right.
And so therefore the ghouls, they have to encounter the ghoul vampires. Okay. Where they're so bloodthirsty because they've not seen light, they've not seen human interaction. They are nothing but raw, killing, undead ghouls.
Oh,
so they went from vampires to ghouls, basically.
Yeah.
So that's my variation on the zombie vampire type thing.
Oh,
so the Darkened Hollows introduces that concept. And then the second part of that story, the second parallel thread, is that he introduces Lucifer and two offspring, basically, that were Cambrians, or these undead, or these supernatural beings that are half human, half supernatural. Okay. They can live through time.
Oh, okay.
And so what you find is these Cambrians were involved in various nefarious things of history. Various, like Nazism and different things. That they've been involved in really bad things.
Okay.
Now, the story is set in the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, which is the Weston Mental Hospital.
Okay,
and where we're going now. In book 2, which I thought I'd show you that one because if they'd be open now.
Oh,
if we do it later in the tour, it might be closed, or we might, it would be dark or something.
Yeah.
It might be cool to film, but it's not really.
Yeah.
We're not climbing around the windows and stuff. But the it's tied in with another Pennsylvania lore story that happened around York, Pennsylvania. Okay. There is a story that happened in Trout Run near York, Pennsylvania. And it involves a lunatic asylum that gets burnt down. Okay. And they call it like the 7 Gates of Hell or something. Is one of the urban legends.
Yeah, I think I've heard of that, yeah.
In my story, I propose how that happened. One of the Cambrian brothers was involved, so you have a flashback that explained what happened at that insane asylum. Right. And so now, fast forward almost a century later, he's working at this insane asylum, doing his same thing. Right. So it took him all these years to get back to being the same kind of doctor that he was, still an evil doctor, an evil psychotherapist. Interesting bit of history for this one that we're going to is the transorbital lobotomy was perfected here. So a lot of the more scary things that you hear about with mental health issues and stuff, and the mental health abuse and things, really happened at this place. Okay, so it's dark as hell. So it's really a great piece for the story. Oh yeah, I'll say. So that's good old Weston. Yes. So that's book 2, and Weston's the Insane Asylum also is involved in book 3. So, so that's that. Yeah. This is true. Okay. And I just wrote generally about what the characters were experiencing while they were in there from the horror scene. Yeah. And then Rich Bottles and I took a tour when book 3 was out. Okay. And when we took the tour, the inside, the collars and the auditorium and everything were described exactly.
Nice.
Like it was.
Wow.
That actually was one points I was actually got chill.
Yeah.
Because I guessed it how it would with what it was.
Oh yeah.
And
even your guess was correct.
Yeah, the color scheme of the tiles, the checkered tiles, and the look of the light and the way the windows were and all that. It was that's ESP so crazy.
I've had that happen. Like I'll be writing something and then I'll just like whether even if it's just like kind of like a point in history, I might just do like, okay, I'll just guess this for right now, then go research it later, you know. And then I'll go research it and I'll be like, well, my guess was right. You know? It's like,
that's a weird feeling too. It's like, oh, and it's super weird when you're inside this.
They're in a past life or whatever. You know?
Pretty much. Now they also do like haunted houses and stuff at this place. And they do car shows. But they do interesting themed events at this place. But just if you go out of the blue, you just get to see it as it was. Yeah. So like now we should be able to see it in the reality version. Now they moved the hospital to someplace else in Weston. Right. So the real mental hospital has been moved, but this was the real mental hospital for almost 100 years. Okay. Back when mental health was the stuff of gothic nightmares.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And there's even a sign for
there
Gothic
you go.
Asylum
Gothic
tours.
Asylum tours.
That's where we're going.
Nice. There we go.
Yeah, it's been really interesting to take I don't want to say singular dimension style story like Darkened Hills and make it into a more kind of like a multiverse actually, where a lot of stuff is happening in the character's reality, in our world, and then in the spiritual world. Because when you deal with vampires, you deal with the spiritual world. Right. Always, even from Dracula. Oh yeah. You have the good versus evil core thing. So, so we start to introduce those elements as the series goes on, where it really wasn't talked a lot of. Book one was self-contained. Yeah. It was designed just to be a little experimental style story. Yeah. Taking pop cultural vampire stories, blending them together, setting them in West Virginia, and seeing how that would sound. Or it's definitely interesting, especially, like an interesting concept, especially given like the stigma that usually comes with West Virginia. Yes. Well, what I learned was actually a few years into it, and my story came out before this, but now I'm able to explain it better. Okay. Using a totally different story that came out later. The ABC television series Once Upon a Time deals with fairy tale creatures. Yeah. All these fairy tale characters that are cursed and have to live in a town in Maine called Storybrooke. Okay. Yeah. And in a way, it's sort of on a parallel type of a concept to where in Darkened Hills you have all of these horror creatures and horror characters are all living a brand new contemporary life out in Nellis, West Virginia. So that's kind of the interesting way. When I try to explain the story, I usually do it that way now to people so that they can understand that, well, Jonathan Harker he's not a lawyer in this book. He's actually a handyman truck driver guy. That's just kind of
it's definitely changed.
So, and but in my mind when I was making the characters do things, I was thinking of the original characters, but putting them in today's kind of roles. Yeah. And like in the original Dracula, there was Nina Harker. Right. But in the Nina's not in Darkened Hills, but Lucy Westerner becomes the love interest to Jonathan Harker. Right. In this, because there was a certain when I would go back and think about Dracula, there was a certain sensuality of Lucy. Yeah. That I did. Nina was so involved with Dracula and stuff. So I thought, well, let's not take that kind of storyline with this. Let's take a new storyline, use the personality of there, and then so Mina is actually this Wiccan that he meets, but not doesn't marry like he did in and it wasn't the bride of bride of Dracula, but like a in Dracula's or in Rothenstein's world. So it's kind of like moving them around like chess pieces into a different, into a totally different story. Okay. I got a lot of bad criticism with that, but hey, it's fiction, it's fantasy.
Exactly. Well, I know there's a lot of purists out there too, where
they hate messing with Dracula, they hate messing with Salem's Lot.
Yeah, it's like you can't mess with that.
Yeah, you don't dare mess with it. Come up with something totally new. But the truth is, with vampire really stories, you're going to have. Even Anne Rice's stuff and all that, there is a basic theme that sort of permeates the vampire story. Stake in the heart, or it's so you're going to have a parallel. The idea is if you can embrace the parallel and then see what you can make with it, and do it real openly like that. And that's kind of the idea of Darkened Hills. Oh
yeah, well I know. I mean, I definitely appreciate the original story of Dracula, and Salem's Lot, but it's sometimes it's fun to see a new twist on things, So.
Tuesday through Sunday. Well, today's Sunday.
Yeah.
Of course, if it was closed, I'd just take you on the outside tour.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hey, it'll still work.
Now, see this? Well, we could walk over. There's a river right here.
Oh, okay.
That used to be a creek. It was a real small creek.
Nice.
It's a river now because they dug out all the stones to make that.
Oh, okay.
See how it's got like a little dam and stuff?
Yeah.
And in the story, the flood that happens in Malice floods this place because the water pushes downstream.
Yeah, okay.
Now, whether the two water systems are really connected, I don't know. But in the story, they are. I didn't go through the map and track to see if this is downstream from there.
Yeah. Hey, sometimes fiction has to be some guesswork.
Yeah, you're about 20 miles from Salem if you drive the back roads.
Okay.
Which we could drive the back road.
Well, Gary, you forgot to tell me something.
What's that?
This was built at the end of the Civil War.
Oh, yes.
When West Virginia and Virginia were the same.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So he's pretty much, everybody was in here.
Oh, cool. Wow.
Yeah, this white's so big is for a reason. They had a lot of patience.
Yeah, apparently.
The picture with the sign. We'll come in here.
Yeah.
Are you interested in taking boards?
Yes, we are.
Watch your step.
Yeah.
A couple of them.
Okay.
We'll be right back. We'll grab it.
Please, you are allowed to go.
Okay, we're about to actually do a tour of this asylum. I am really, really excited. But unfortunately, I'm not allowed to get video of it. However, I am allowed to get photos. So I will have photos at the webzines, at the website, and I will be relaying all that we saw on this tour, and I'll, you know, get some video of the general museum area of this asylum. So, all right, I will see you all later. I'm super excited. So I guess this is the patient art. Wow, look at that. Absolutely. Wow. Some dreams. Patient Art Museum. Really, really interesting. Just finished our tour. It's a lot of fun. We're going to be continuing.